Alright guys, so here's another set of photos. These ones my dad took rather than Grant Myrtle Photography, so it's also at Mount Hood Meadows. We're just going to kind of quickly rehash some things we talked about before. So the first thing I want to point out in this video is these other tracks that you see are also mine. These ones right here. These ones are not mine. So this is like the third time I had skied the run. Also, the snow, so there was only maybe 6 inches or so of new snow, and it had gotten some wind, and you can see the amount of wind varies. Usually the wind runs up the slope. So at the top of the run there's less wind than toward the bottom of the run. It got more wind, and this is where it changes. The snow changes as you go down a run sometimes. And you can tell how much wind there was because there's not a lot of snow in the trees. So the snow was nice snow, but there was a lot of wind, so it doesn't accumulate in the trees in a situation like that. And so that gives you an indication before you even ski a run of what it's going to be like. I had skied this before, so I had a better idea. You'll see this in other videos. The first few turns, kind of 1 or 2 turns into a run, don't really amount to a whole lot because it takes some momentum to deploy the technique that we're talking about. So the first 1 or 2 turns kind of aren't very good. That's pretty common. So I'm skiing this, I think, on those 170 Matrix Mogul skis. And when I first started skiing this run, I ended up in my track. I was thinking I wanted to do a figure 8, so I'd be opposite, but I ended up being in my track because my timing wasn't right. And so at a certain point I'm going to get out of my track because I don't want to ski in my own track. That's already compressed used snow. I want to be on the side where the snow hasn't been touched yet. But like I mentioned before, when you find a good run as a powder skier, you go back to it as frequently as possible and just keep skiing it until it's tracked out. So let's move down a couple of turns. So here, as we zoom in, you can see in this shot, so this would be the apex of the turn. You can see I'm completely out of the snow. You can see my boots and my skis. But body check wise, chest, shoulders straight down the fall line, vision out in front of me. My boots and skis and knees are all really close together. And I'm getting enough rebound out of the snow that I'm leaving the snowpack. The snow is pretty firm, so that happens. And like on this shot, you can see I'm just entering the snowpack, so you can kind of get an idea of where everything's placed. And coming up here, I'm going to pop. I guess it was that turn. I popped out, and part of the reason for doing this is I want to get out of the turns I'm already in. So if we looked up above me, you would see you can't discriminate my prior turns. They're right on top of each other. So here I'm going to pop out and jump over to a little bit so that I'm in new undisturbed snow. Oops. All right. So some of the things that are analogous to your mogul skiing, again, it's largely one-legged skiing as we think about it. So it's like 70–80% on my downhill ski. The uphill ski doesn't carry nearly as much force. It still plays a role. It's just you're largely skiing on the one ski. You can see in this turn. So here this would be the fictitious mogul, and I'm compressing at the trough between one mogul and the other mogul. I've built that base of support, and I've initiated my turn, and I'm going to pop off of it. And when these are kind of spaced out, so it's harder to link them together. But I've popped off of it. I've landed. So I've just landed. So I'm planting on the next mogul. I'm starting to compress back down again in between the troughs between the 2 moguls before I pop off the shoulder of this mogul I'll plant on. And then here you can see I'm at the apex. I'm at my most extended, and this is just to reiterate the vision and not being able to see your skis in the snow. You just like in mogul skiing, you don't pay attention to your skis themselves when you're skiing a line. your vision is focused mostly down here. That's your primary vision, and you're planning where you're going to turn. Your peripheral vision up here is just confirming what you had planned to make sure that nothing has changed. Just like when you drive a car, you don't drive with your vision focused right in front of the bumper. Your vision is focused down the road some distance based off of your speed, and then your peripheral vision is still keeping you within your lines, in your lane, hopefully. Maybe not so much in New Mexico, but in other states. And it's making sure that it's something like a little kid or a dog or something hasn't run in, or a deer hasn't run in front of you that's going to change your plan, right? So primary vision is down slope a good ways, and then your peripheral vision is here. And just like in mogul skiing, you feel what's happening in the here and the now through the skis, through the boots. And so you may look down if you encountered unexpected resistance, or the surface suddenly you thought you were going to sink in and you didn't. Maybe it changed to ice or something. And there's places on ski resorts, they don't hold snow. And maybe it freezes because of one day, and then it's very windy for every storm, and so there's just one little shoulder just doesn't hold snow. And that there are features like that on a mountain. If you're not familiar with the mountain, you may run into those. So that's the vision. You're never worried in your vision scheme about not being able to see your skis. And oftentimes in nice deep snow, you're not going to see them. You're never going to see them. They're always covered. They're obscured from your field of view. So one thing to point out here is when you get a lot of rebound out of the snow, particularly with denser snow like this, where you're punching through kind of a layer, and then it provides a bigger ramp. So I've compressed the snow here. Here's that shoulder of the fictitious mogul, and I extended and initiated my turn. So when I came off that shoulder, as if there were a shoulder there, I completely left the snow. Like, that's a ski length, 170 centimeters worth of no contact with the snowpack. And I call that rebound sometimes. That's how much rebound you can generate in this type of skiing. And it's based off of the snow and how much technique you're applying, how much pressure you're applying. But that's not uncommon with this technique to really come out of the snow. And that's a good sign. That's not a bad thing. That's just you're calibrating your turns for the run, and how much speed you're going to carry, how steep the run is, and how deep and dense the snow is. It's all going to play a role in that turn shape. You can see this turn from, I'm assuming is a snowboarder, maybe it was a skier. They left the snowpack too right here, that phase of their turn, and they were just kind of cruising on top. They weren't punching into the snow the way I am. So in a shot like this, you can see where the technique and everything is the same, and you can see the skis being compressed, and I'm looking for that next mogul, but it's just the snow is getting denser as I'm moving down the run, and you can see that effect of the snow has the ripples from the wind, kind of light wind crust on it. But as long as you're confident with your technique, you can punch through that layer and still, if the layer isn't too strong, and still have a good run. And you can see how much rebound I got out of that turn. I'm completely airborne, and airborne for a ways. This run starts to flatten out toward the bottom, and this is a good shot to illustrate how it is still largely that one-skied skiing. So this ski, you can see that you can kind of get an idea that the ski itself is flexed, so it went from camber to that rocker kind of shape. A lot of pressure is being applied to it. This other ski is just it's sitting there on the snow. It's not doing a whole lot for me yet. It will do more as I complete my compression and start initiating my turn and extend, and then it will play a role. But right now I'm largely just on my downhill ski. And the same thing with this shot. So it's the other leg. It's less steep here, but still you can get an idea. There's a lot of snow being kicked around that boot, and you can actually see the other boot. So that's again an indication that it's largely downhill weighted on my turns. And the rest of this run, I'm just coming out of it. And you can see that down here, it's in a little defilade. So now there isn't a wind crust anymore, and I'm sinking in. and that does happen, and that's that terrain and snow awareness that is going to change throughout your run. So that's kind of putting everything together, and yeah, so these were 170 centimeter long head matrix moguls, and these boots I threw them away this last season because I never liked them. I think this is the first year in this photo that I skied on them, and I never really grew to like them, but I still used them for 9 years. Anyway, so this is just kind of a rehash video focusing on those vision and other things that and keep putting everything together and looking at different conditions. So if you have questions, just leave them in the comments or shoot me a text, and we'll go from there. All right, guys.